Okay, so if you really wanted to piss off a real estate agent, here's a few things you could do. And a little background on myself, I've been a real estate agent for over 10 years and done several hundred transactions. So the first thing you could do if you're a buyer is to spend 45 minutes at every single property, even properties that you completely hate and would have zero interest in actually purchasing. I remember I had a purchaser, this was several years ago, and it was almost like they had a timer at every single property for 45 minutes exactly. And sometimes they would walk into the property and just start saying everything that they hated about the property. I hate this entrance, I hate this kitchen, I hate this, the rooms are too small. And I was like, look, we can just go to the next property. You're not going to offend anybody, you're gonna save yourself some time, you're gonna save me some time. We can just use our time a little bit more effectively here. Because sometimes if you're a buyer, you might walk into a property and you just know right off the bat, this is not going to work. There's no way, it's a busy street, the curb appeal is terrible, the kitchen's horrible, whatever it may be. And that's completely fine. You can just go on to the next property. I remember this buyer just had to go into every single room and tell me everything that was terrible about the property. And what you could do since you're already at the property is maybe just do like a quick run through of the property just to give you a better idea of like, okay, for 700 or 800,000, this is the quality of the property that you might be getting. But if you don't like the property, there's no reason to just go through and spend almost an hour talking about how much you hate it. The next way to piss off a realtor is to look at houses if you're not pre-approved. Now, it's one thing to just go to open houses and just kind of look casually at properties. Like, you don't necessarily need to be pre-approved for that. You can just go into an open house and just look online. But if you're out there engaging with a real estate agent and they're showing you different properties, you should be pre-approved, because it's a waste of time if you're not. Because let's say you find an amazing property and then you go to your lender to get approved and the lender says, oh, actually you can't purchase a property because you need 2 years of tax returns, or you have to fix your credit, or you have to do this or that. Then you just wasted everybody's time. Or maybe you go to the lender and they say, oh, your payment's going to be $5,000 a month, and you're like, well, I thought it was only going to be $3,000 a month. Well, then again, you just wasted everybody's time. So it's good to get pre-approved beforehand. Your real estate agent should have a great recommendation of a local lender, and they don't necessarily need to do a hard credit check. A good lender will be able to do a soft credit check, look at your documents and say, okay, you're approved for $800,000. This is what your monthly payment's going to be. And then if you find an amazing property, then you can make an offer on it that day because you have the pre-approval letter. Whereas I've seen it sometimes where people are like scrambling. They find an amazing property, but they're like, oh, we were just going to wait to get pre-approved until we found something. And then, it could take several days sometimes to get pre-approved if you don't have everything together. And also, just because you have a pre-approval letter doesn't mean you're like obligated to purchase a property within a certain time frame. Now, usually the lender letters can be good for like 3 months or so, maybe longer than that, depending on the lender. But you should just have that ready when you're going house hunting. It'll make everyone's job a lot easier. The next way to piss off a realtor is to be working with more than one agent. So I remember I got a call one time from this guy. He wanted to see it was like a $1.5 million property, so it was a pretty high-end property. And he told me, he said, hey, I have a real estate agent, but they're out of town this weekend and they work really hard, so I just don't want to bother them with the showing. Can you just show it to me? And I remember thinking, I was like, wow, that's $1.5 million house. They don't even have somebody that could actually get you into the property, and they're just working that hard that they can't even have one showing agent get you into the house. And they basically just wanted me to work for free for them just to show them this one property, and then they would go back to their original agent. And I remember it was kind of like a far distance too. And I just told them, I was like, I'm not going to do that. If you have an agent, you should work with that agent. And if your agent can't get you into like a $1.5 million house or any price range of a property on a weekend when you want to see it, you should probably be working with a different agent. Like on my team, if someone wants to see a property whenever they want to see it, we can make that happen. Like if it's 30 minutes advance notice, we probably need a little bit more time than that. But I show properties all the time if I'm on vacation or out of town. It's called showing agents. And I did not show them the property, but I gave them the listing agent's contact info. I said, look, if you want to set it up directly with them because your agent can't show it to you, just talk to them and maybe they can help you out. But that is a guaranteed way to piss off a real estate agent, by working with multiple agents. And real quick, 10 seconds, if you're looking to buy or sell a property in the Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia area, reach out to my team and I below. We'd love to assist you. Or if you're looking nationwide, you can fill out a quick form and I can put you in touch with a great local agent. The next way to piss off a real estate agent is adding houses to your tour after you've already set up a tour. And it's okay, obviously, if it happens, a few times here and there. But I remember I had somebody that it was like habitual. It was like we'd set up like 3, 4, 5 showings showings, it would be all mapped out, precise with, okay, 215 here, 245 here, 330 there. And then every time we'd get to like the second or third house, he would be like, hey, can we add these like 4 properties? And you kind of have to map them out on a tour. If it's just one property, yeah, that's okay. But this was like multiple properties consistently. And I'd always tell him, I'd be like, look, we can see any property you want to see for the most part. Let's just map them out beforehand. Just tell me the properties beforehand so I can, confirm access, because every now and then there might be a tenant, or it might need, sometimes they need like a day or two notice before we set up the showing. So it's just much easier if you map out everything beforehand, tell your agent all the properties you want to see, they can get it set up, and then you can have a nice smooth afternoon of showings. Another way to piss off a realtor is setting up last minute showings. And a lot of times real estate is last minute, like a property just pops up and it's the exact property that you're looking for, so you have to see it. So obviously your agent should do everything they can to get you into that property as soon as possible. And I try to be as flexible as possible with my clients. I have showing agents, so if someone needs to see a property before they're going out of town and it's the perfect property, we will get you into that house. But I had one guy, he would just show up to a property and he'd be like, hey, I'm outside this property right now. And he would send me the address and call me, and it'd be like, 7 p.m. on like a Thursday night or Friday night or something like that. And be like, hey, I'm outside this property. Can you show it to me right now? And I'm like, hey man, like I need a little bit of heads up here. Like I try to be as flexible as possible, but we got to be a little bit more flexible than that. The next way to piss off a realtor is not following the terms of the contract. So I've had buyers before where, they kind of want to do things their way and they're not really following the terms of the contract. And if you do that, you can jeopardize losing the transaction, losing your earnest money deposit, even possibly getting sued. So that's why we really, we say, hey, here's the deadline for the home inspection. Here's the deadline for the appraisal contingency. Here's a deadline to deposit the earnest money deposit. I've had buyers where they don't deposit the earnest money deposit in the right time frame, and then the seller can potentially void the contract, or the buyer waits until the last day possible to do the home inspection, and then we have to ask for an extension, and then it gets very stressful, and sometimes we might even have to potentially void, or maybe the buyer doesn't order the appraisal within the certain time frame specified in the contract and just says, hey, let's just ask for an extension, and the seller doesn't have to give you an extension on anything. And if you're not following the terms of the contract, the seller might even have a case to take your earnest money deposit, or if you delay the closing, the seller can just not agree to that and just relist the house. So as an agent, when I'm working with buyers, I outline these timeframes, and if you don't go by those timeframes or you don't go by the terms of the contract, you can lose your earnest money deposit, you can lose the house, and it just makes things very unnecessarily stressful all around. The next way to piss off your realtor and your lender are to do anything that would drastically change your financial picture when you're under contract to purchase a property. So if you're under contract to purchase something, pay your bills, don't take on any new debt, don't change jobs. And if you just have to do one of those things, confirm it with the lender. Every now and then, in rare scenarios, it's okay to change jobs, but just wait until after closing to do that. I've had buyers where they're like, look, I hate my boss, might even quit my job. And I'm like, look, just wait another 2 weeks and get to closing first, and then you can quit your job, change your job, do whatever you want. But don't purchase a car, don't buy a boat, don't change jobs, while you're under contract or, before closing. So there's a few ways to piss off your realtor. But if you are seriously looking to buy or sell in the DC or Northern Virginia area, reach out to my team below and we would love to assist you. Or if you're looking nationwide to buy or sell a property, fill out a quick form below and I can put you in touch with a great local agent.